All right, so I saw you still sent me. No, where? Hey,
All right.
good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to the Business Heroes Podcast. I am Mia,
And I'm Victor.
and this show we highlight professionals, okay? High performing professionals and entrepreneurs who are pursuing purpose, profit, and passion so that they can affect the world for good. And we have an amazing show for you today. Victor, I wanted to say, I have a word for the day, okay? So sometimes for those of you who may be new watching the show for the first time, we like to do a word for the day every now and then, right? And so I was thinking about what our word could be. And honestly, this isn't the word I thought of, but it could have been privilege, right? When I think about the person that we're going to have on the show today and just the amazing people that we've had on in the past, like I really feel privileged. You know what I'm saying? I feel like, how is it that we are so blessed to meet such dynamic people
Yeah.
and be able to learn from them and hear their wisdom and be able to share it to the world?
Yeah.
So I should have had the word privilege.
Well, let's just work with that.
Well, I don't have that today. So today's word for today. So you have to hold me to it, okay? I will need to bring that word because it also gets taken wrong, the word privilege sometimes. But listen, today's word is profit, okay? And when I say profit, I'm saying PROFIT, okay? Profit, like profitable. And I love that because in our intro, we talk a lot about business heroes. These people are not just pursuing passion and purpose, but they're also seeking to be profitable. And that can be hard for Christian entrepreneurs, right? Like us, we have often struggled with the idea of being profitable because somewhere along the way, we got the idea that it's not okay to make money for God, that
Mercy.
it's actually more pious to be poor. And that is actually a lie from Satan. It really is. And it's been misconstrued in many different ways. We probably need to do a whole show on it, but not today.
I feel like we touch on it every other show, really.
We
But
do. But listen, guys, I was just doing some word sleuthing. Okay. I was looking into it. Profit is an amount of money that you gain when you are paid for something, and it's something that it costs you. You get more than what it costs you to make it or to get it. Does that make sense? So profit isn't just, okay, I got some money back, but whatever it cost you to make it, you made more than that.
boy,
And the reason for that is you need to be able to do it again, right? You actually need to be able to do it again. It says another word for it is yielding advantageous returns or results. Okay. And the meaning in Hebrew is actually similar. Okay. In fact, it said lucrative. And so I really want us to really think about this and pray about this. Those of us who are Christian entrepreneurs who on some level could even be self-sabotaging our businesses because we're afraid to make decisions that will cause us to be profitable. And we do not have time to go into the story of the You want to say something?
No,
You want to
I
go?
did. I was trying to pull up a note because there was a scripture that I come across just the other day, and I'm trying to remember where it was.
Well, I can say this. It is really mind blowing. And I really appreciate those of you as Christian business owners, entrepreneurs, pastors. We have a wonderful pastor coming on in just a minute that understand this idea and are helping to remove the veil from our eyes. Because why? The power of money in the hands of God's people can really open doors, right? Can open doors for so many things. And God is asking us to be profitable. When we look at that, what do you call it? The word's not coming to my mind. It's not an allegory. It's a story in the Bible of different people that God had given a treasure to, and they were supposed to invest it, and they were supposed to have a profit from it. And it's a really powerful story. But I just want to share that with you all because as we've been studying and growing, we are having to really overcome this point because sometimes it's like, no, this is bad. We're charging for doing good. Oh no, but anyway, a workman's worthy of his hire. All right.
Man, okay, so I gotta
You
go.
found it. You found it.
Yeah, Ecclesiastes 11 verse 1. Man, and see the way I've heard it. All right, the way we've typically heard is cast your bread upon the waters, and after many days it shall return. So I always used to think, you give away for free, you just bless everybody, and you know, one day God's gonna give it back to you. Nothing necessarily wrong with that. But I looked at a couple of other different versions, and people might want to go into
Different versions of the Bible
yes,
text is
different
what
versions.
you're saying. Okay.
All right. So this is NIV. Ship your grain across the sea, and after many days you may receive a return. I'm like, huh, that's interesting. Ship your grain. So this isn't necessarily talking about freely giving. This is talking about like merchants.
Yes.
Like, you have a product,
Yes.
you ship it. Why are you shipping it? Are you shipping it to give away for free? No, you're selling it and you're making a return. This version now, the NLT, New Living Translation, this one really blew my mind. I think I went into verse 1 and 2. Send your grain across the seas, and in time, profits will flow back to you. But divide your investments among many places, for you do not know what risks might lie ahead. I
That is
almost
such a
fell off my chair.
That is such a business
I was just
principle.
like, whoa, that is so in the context, it's not in the same context as freely give, freely receive. This is in the context of business. And this is from Ecclesiastes, which means from Solomon, the wisest man that ever lived. Anyway, that's not what the show is about, but I had to
Well, we had
plug
to pull
those.
it in.
We had to pull it in because
Absolutely. Absolutely.
yes,
And so we are ourselves wanting to grow as Christian entrepreneurs and people who are pursuing purpose, profit, and purpose so we can affect the world for good. And I don't know if I just said that wrong, but
it
you
doesn't
get what I'm
matter.
saying.
It's all right. It's all
All
right.
right, so we can't wait anymore. We can't wait. We have a dynamic person. And just in case you had not gotten your friends, your family members, go and get them right now. While we read the bio, you need to hear this person's story. It is amazing, okay? So this is your chance, if you haven't done it already, to go grab someone. And I'm seeing, and I'm going to say her name wrong.
No, it's not a him.
Oh,
it's not a her.
Okay. Mello, yay. Mello de Cruz is saying, blessed morning, family. Thank you. Yay.
Melvin, good to see you on, man.
Awesome.
Good to see you on. Thanks for watching.
Awesome.
Well, we're going to read this bio here. Pastor Robert Guerrero Sr., the eldest of 6 children born to Angelo and Alma Guerrero, was born in Brooklyn, New York.
All right.
He gave his life to Jesus and joined the Seventh-day Adventist Church at the early age of 13.
Wow.
It was at that early age that he felt the call to go into ministry. But after 20 years of running to Nineveh, God finally arrested him, as he put it, at a ripe age of 35. And at that time, he went to Oakwood University in Huntsville, Alabama.
Nice.
Shout out to OU. Where he earned a BA in ministerial theology with a minor in communication. Nice. He graduated magna cum laude, top 5 in his class.
Come on.
And was the president of the Religion and Theology Forum in May of 2002. He's currently pursuing a double master's in biblical counseling and in church leadership and management from Southern Adventist University in Collegedale. He's been pastoring in Georgia, in North Carolina, and South Carolina. And right now he is in the Middle Georgia area, where God's led him over his time to baptize over 275 precious souls, and is still working now, not just in the church, but online in the virtual space to help bring others to a closer walk with God. And it's amazing. He actually just had Mia on, was it last week? A couple of weeks ago on his show, sharing her testimony. And so there's a link to that show in the description, as well as to his platform, to his Hope for the Journey
I
podcast.
love that title, by the way. It is
Yes.
amazing. Can you think about that hope for the journey? Oh, that's so
Yes,
powerful.
yes, yes.
Yes, yes.
So you all probably noticed the title of the show. I think we titled it Ex Drug Addict Shares Hope for the Journey. I probably
Wow.
butchered it. But
Wow. Well, we gotta just bring him on. Let's bring him
yes,
on
we'll
now
bring
so
him on.
he can catch us up to speed. And like we said, if you haven't already gotten your family member, it's time. Go get him. Go get him. You gotta hear
Share
it.
this, like, share, and subscribe. But share. All right.
Good
Pastor
morning.
Guerrero,
Good morning. Good morning. How you guys doing?
we're blessed to have you on, sir. Blessed
We're
to have you on.
privileged. We're
Privilege.
privileged.
When you were doing your introduction in the bio, I was like, I wonder who that guy is, man. He sounds
Man.
Yay.
And I didn't share all we could share because in
mercy.
digging around on YouTube, I got a little more.
Mercy.
You know, we know you grew up in Brooklyn,
Yes, sir.
single parent home,
Wow.
addicted to drugs, and here we are now. So we are excited to
Absolutely.
learn how God miraculously worked in your life. But
Yes,
how do you
and
want
I
them to
guess,
start off?
well, let's just start off. Pastor G, you said you are the oldest of 6 kids. Can you just kind of talk to the other entrepreneurs and business heroes that are listening on and say, like, let them know, like, what was life like for you in the beginning and what made you decide to go into where you are now?
Yeah. Yes. Good morning, and thank you again for having me on here. I was, as you mentioned, I was raised in a predominantly single parent home. My mom, I guess I must have been about 8, 9-ish. Decided to leave my dad. I grew up like in an abusive home. It literally was. My dad would come home drunk. From Thursday to Sunday, we didn't see him. He would leave on Thursday, Friday when he went to work. He'd get paid and then go on and come home Sunday. He'd be drunk and just come home and fight and argue and throw things and break things. And I grew up in that kind of home. And I literally, like I said, around 8 or 9 years old, my mom had said, I've had enough. I'm going to do bad. I can do bad by myself.
Right.
And she took the kids and she just went on. And so basically it was a single parent home from then on. And it was a tough childhood. And I say that not to like bring any glory to any of the things that happened, but so that whoever's listening might know it's not the end of the story because you start this way. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah.
That just because this is where you are today or this is how you grew up doesn't mean it's the end of the story. There is more to the story. And that's what I'm hoping to share with you guys today.
Yes, yes. And please tell us, because you're so right. There are so many. So the people watching are people who are entrepreneurs. They're either early in their career or there are seasoned entrepreneurs. And then we have those who are budding, who are going through things and they may think like, can I really start a business? I've been through this, I've done that. Can I really actually be profitable? And so can you just, if you don't mind, give a little more detail, like, what are some things you are facing now? Your mom is on her own. She's single parent. She has the kids. Like, what's happening for you in your life?
And so what happened is I began to become, I got into like other things. I started playing sports and I started doing other things to take my mind off of what was going on at home.
Mm-hmm.
And in those pursuits, I began to get involved with, I guess, the wrong crowd. And sometimes harmlessly or thinking it was harmless, because what happened was I became really good at baseball. And I was playing baseball all over the city, all over the country. And I was only 10, 11, 12 years old, literally just, and I was getting really good at it. And one year our team won, and I remember this like it was yesterday, our team won the city championships. And afterwards they have like this award ceremony, and it's just, everybody gets together and they're partying because we just won this whatever, and that was the first time I had a drink, and I took a sip, man, and it felt so good afterwards. After you had a couple of drinks, I was like, wow, and the pain was gone. You know what I'm saying? I didn't have to deal with, where's my dad or why is life so hard? I didn't have to deal with that. I started drinking at the age of 12, 13 years old, and my father was an alcoholic, so it was already predisposed inside of me. I already had the DNA and genes to be suspect to that.
Right.
For me, it was a natural thing, and it just started happening, and I progressively got worse. You know, I went from drinking to doing drugs and all kinds of things, and as we go with the story, you'll see that the enemy had a past or a track he wanted to take me down, but God had a track too, but that I just was unaware of it. I didn't know at that time that God was trying to do something for me and in me, that I look back now and say, you're a knucklehead. If you would have just listened, you would have been okay. But I'm stubborn. I'm Puerto Rican from Brooklyn, New York. We're kind of stubborn people. So I had to go through the hard knocks. And what I'm saying is, you don't have to. You don't have to go through the hard knocks if you give what God is trying to do, what the powers above are trying to do. Give them a chance. You'll be surprised what happens. At that time, I must have been about 13 or 14. I went to an evangelistic meeting, and I literally heard the gospel for the first time in my life. And I fully embraced it because it was hope for, it was hope that something would get better. My life really wasn't all that. It gave me hope that things are going to get better in the future. And I remember at the end of that series that God spoke to me just like I'm talking to you right now. And he literally said, I'm going to want you to do what he's doing. I'm going to want you to do that in the near future. And I just laughed it off. And I'm like, oh, okay. Ha, 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 ha. And I'm 13 years old. You're like, you're not hearing nothing. And I knew then at 13, 14 years old, I knew this is what God wanted me to do. But I had other plans for my life. I wanted to do other things. I wanted to get rid of the pain. I wanted to get rid of the hurt. I wanted to get rid of all of those things. So I went a different path, even though I knew this is what God wanted. And that's why in my bio, you mentioned for 20 something years, I ran every opportunity that God tried to open the door. I would go the other way. I was just stubborn, if you want to call it that. I just went the other way.
So question, can you tell us, because that's really interesting. So this is 20 years of your life now. You've been called, you've gotten this hope that God is going to do something. He's going to change you and that he's actually calling you. And yet you're like, no, I want to do other things. So what are some of those other things that you wanted to do or you kind of put your hand in? Because it looks like you don't go to Oakwood till you're 35. So what are some of those ventures, as it were, that you decided to be a part of?
Yeah, and I don't know if anybody else will resonate, but when I turned 18, I thought I knew it all. I thought I had the answers to everything. My mom couldn't tell me anything. The church couldn't tell me anything. I didn't want to hear nothing about God. I was 18. I was grown now, and I just felt like I could do this on my own. And I did. I started going and doing things on my own. And that's when the drugs started coming back in the scene. From 13 to about 16, 17, I left them alone. I was walking with God. I was sincere. I was doing what I thought was best. And then when I got to be 18, something happened. I don't know. You start feeling your oats. You know what I mean? You just think you've grown. You just think can't nobody tell you anything. And that's what happened for me. And I started back into the drug scene at that time. And I started going harder and heavier at that time. And for a good 5 or 6 years, I got into the drug scene and I started selling drugs. And to make a long story short, I actually became my best customer. And so I ended up becoming addicted to the drugs that I was selling to other people. And I started to get, as I'm 24 now, 25, I'm starting to get uneasy about where I was in life. I'm 25. I expected more. And I thought God told me that I was going to be this, so and so and so. And here I am 25 and I'm still stuck. So I started thinking about going to get help, and I went to rehab 3 different times trying to get help. And I tried everything on my own, tried to get to doing everything that I could, everything I knew. And it wasn't until I was about 25, 26 that God sat me down and said, listen, that's what the problem is. You keep trying to do it your way. Why don't you just let go and do it my way? Try me and see what happens. And ever since then, I think that's his story, history. He changed my life and things are different. Doesn't mean that I got everything I want, or it doesn't mean that I've achieved everything I want, but it just means there's a different kind of peace, if that makes any sense. There's a different kind of understanding, even when you deal with stuff, because I still deal with things. I still go through things. Even when you deal with those things, there's this peace, there's this hope, there's this something that keeps you going and keeps you pushing. So yeah, it was a rough childhood. And even some of my family might be hearing this for the first time, because, it was, I'm even though right now I'm on YouTube and I'm on Facebook, I'm really a quiet, shy person. I just have no choice to being upfront and being vocal, and people think that I'm, but I'd rather be alone by myself, hanging out.
Yeah.
That's the way I was raised. That's the way I was. And so it may seem like I'm this extrovert, and I am, but it's because I have no choice. I'm a pastor now. I'm in front of people all the time. I'm in front of an audience all the time. So I have to, and God has been good. He's given me the ability to do certain things. He's helped me to go through my shortcomings. Even now, you see, I stutter sometimes. I'm still nervous sometimes. And I've been
We didn't notice. We didn't notice. Yeah. But I want to ask you, Pastor G, because this is really good. And, for us, of course, Pain Unwasted. And for those who may be watching and not knowing, I remember being a professional and very deep in my career as a missionary, as a principal, teacher, mind you. But it was at the height of my career when I plummeted, and found myself in a behavioral health hospital and ready to take my life and get on out of here, And I appreciated the journey, because it was like, you're right. It was not till surrendering to God that things could really change. And you talked about that. You said, God said, why don't you stop and let me do it? Can you just kind of walk viewers through what that recovery journey started to look like for you before you got to Oakwood? Like, how did that surrender look? Because you were like, okay, I've gone to rehab these 3 times and that hasn't worked. Choosing Christ worked, but what did that look like specifically?
Yeah, it's interesting because even after we choose Christ, or we choose to go down the right path, I think sometimes some of us just want the devil to pat us on the back and say, okay, good job. You made a good choice. Go on. Everything is going to be well from here on out. But I think we forget that he's still there trying to get you to do something silly. He's trying to get you to embarrass yourself or embarrass the God that you keep saying is so good. Because the reality is that things didn't stop happening just because I chose to go down that path. Things kept still happening. But the difference was, and I think for me, the difference was that I had to make a conscious decision that I was going to change everything. In other words, you can't continue to hang out with the same people and think the results are going to be different. You can't keep going to the same places and think that things are going to change. If you keep doing all of the same things, no matter how hopeful you are and how strong you are and how much you want this, if you keep hanging around and doing the wrong things, eventually you're going to get sucked back in. So I had to change everything. Friends, places where I went. I actually moved from where I was to a totally different part of the city because I just wanted to change. And I understood that I needed to change everything. And somebody here listening this morning is, you've been trying, you want to go this route and you're trying to do this and it looks good and then you take a fallback. It might be that it's time for a change in friends, environment. It might be time for a change in where you live, jobs. I don't know. But I had to make a complete change of everything. Some of my friends, I didn't talk to for a year. And then after a while, they would ask me, "Hey, man, what happened? Where are you? What are you doing?" And I said, "Man, I'm sorry, but I had doctor's orders that I couldn't be here, and I couldn't do this, and I couldn't do that." And they said, "Doctor's orders? You were sick?" I said, "No, Dr. Jesus. He told me that I needed to make some changes." And so I left, and I did those changes. And it started me on the path. It started me going the right way. Or a better way. I don't know if there's some people who may say I'm still not right, but the better path. But I would I think the thing that highlighted it for me was the change that's necessary of your friends, environment, places you go, things you do. All of that stuff starts the process towards the real change. If you want change, if you want to get better, if you want to be better, if you want to accomplish something, sometimes we got to let go of those old things that are keeping us down.
Wow, this is so powerful.
Yeah. And I mean, that brings us to the verse in Romans 12, verse 2, that says, "Do not be conformed to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind."
Ooh, come
and,
on.
Whether we're talking about, changing from a, life of addiction or pursuing business, it's to get from where you are to where you want to be. You can't go with the same mindset that got you to where you presently are. Like, you have to be around people that are where you want to be. You have to read things that'll help guide you to where you want to be. You have to change some behaviors. You're going to have to cut off some things that you're presently doing and add on some things that you're not presently doing that's going to help you get from point A to point B. And so, that transformation, I know had to be hard, leaving old friends behind, things like that. But it seems like you had a made up mind, and maybe the anointing from the moment that God called you, was, of course, it was still there. I mean, he didn't change the.
Yeah.
All right,
Maybe I was wrong about him.
No.
That's what I'm saying. God doesn't work like that. God doesn't change. He's patient. He will wait for you to come around. Even if you got to take the long way around, he'll be sitting right there waiting for you if you just stop and look. And that's what I love about God. He's patient. He's understanding. He's not like us at all. Not like us. Human beings are impatient. Human beings are judgmental. Human beings, we are a piece of work.
We are.
But he's like the lifeguard, right?
Yes, sir.
Lifeguards see us drowning, they'll come close, but they gotta wait until you stop fighting. Otherwise, you might knock them out in the process and both go down. But it's like, nope.
Exactly.
That's when, at that moment where you surrender, stop fighting and stop trying to save yourself.
Come on.
That's where he can come in.
Correct.
And get you. So as you were talking about, you running and turn to this, turn to that, you said you were stubborn, and not that wasn't necessarily true, but what I really saw was the patience of God. He's willing to wait, like, I'm not changing the call because of what you're doing, but I'm going to wait.
Wow.
I'm going to wait on you.
Right.
Okay. Wow. You finally, okay. Because I mean, the time, 20 years, that time is nothing to him,
Exactly. I never thought about it like that. You're right.
So he's just like, okay. Hey, you sure you want to go that? No. Are you sure you want? No. All right. Well, all right. I'm right here. The call is still yours.
And you know what's funny is that now, being older and wiser, and I look back and I say, man, if I would have just done what he said 20 years ago, look where I might have been today. But it is what it is. I took the long route. Birthdays came and gone. I got gray hairs now. I'm saying to myself, imagine where you would be if you didn't waste 20 years trying to get where God was going to have you anyhow.
Well, man, could I say something? Because, okay, and I don't know what you think about this, Pastor G, but we're having a conversation, right? So just for a moment, I just kind of want to possibly insert a different idea about what you're saying. Because I think about Moses, right? Moses God had a calling on his life from his mother's womb. Before his mother's womb, he knew he would be. And Moses gets the call. He has to go and do all these things. And then, wow, he winds up, killing an Egyptian and then
Mm.
being in the wilderness for 40 years. And I just wonder if Moses had ever thought, man, if I had waited to see how God was going to do it, I wouldn't have had to be in this wilderness these 40 years.
Mercy.
And yet,
Mhm.
it was for an appointed time. You
Yes.
know what I mean? It's
As
like
well,
there was some
exactly.
things that had to happen in Moses's life, in his
Mm.
character, and
Mm.
it wasn't that he was late to the calling. It was a part of the maturation process, if we can
Mm.
say that.
Come
What
on
do
now.
you think?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I never really thought about it like that, but you're 100% right. Um, Sometimes, and I remember a story. While I was going to Oakwood, I was working nights, and I was the head elder at my local church. At the same time, I'm doing all three of those things. And I remember one night, and this story, I share it because I remember one night I used to get up at a certain time every day, and I would get dressed, and I worked 11 at night till 7 in the morning, and then I would go to school. And so I would leave the house at a certain time every day. And I don't know why, but for this one night, I literally couldn't get nothing straight. I literally couldn't get nothing straight. And I didn't leave the house for another 15 minutes than when I usually leave. And I was frustrated. I was angry. I was upset. I'm going to be late, blah, blah, blah. All of that stuff is going through my mind. And I drive down about a half a mile, and there was a terrible accident at the traffic light where there was like
Wow.
5 or 6 cars, literally just, I don't know if anybody survived. I'm going to be honest. And I remember sitting there now saying, here I am, I'm going to be late. This is even worse. And I'm thinking to myself, man, why would this happen and all of this and all of that? And then I end up driving to work. I do get I end up being a little late, but it wasn't that much. It wasn't it was 5 minutes maybe. But I remember that night, God saying to me, do you know that if you would have left on time like you wanted to, perhaps you might have been in that car accident.
Mm.
Sometimes God brings detours, like you said, because he knows what's ahead and he knows that you might get into an accident, you might crash. I was upset and angry, like I'm late and that's just not me and blah, 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 because I'm a perfectionist. It's just everything's got to be right. Everything's got to go. So I'm running late and I'm frustrated. Meanwhile, God was protecting me from an accident. God was keeping me from knocking my head against the wall again. So I say that because sometimes we think, like I just said, that delay was, man, that didn't make sense. But sometimes God is preparing us or protecting us from something else that we can't see, that he can see down the road. And so I want to encourage somebody today. You know what? Maybe you've taken a detour, or maybe that business didn't get off the way you wanted to, or you didn't, you feel like, hey, man, you know what? Is this really worth the investment? You know what? Keep at it. Keep sticking to it. Keep doing what you're doing. Follow God's plan. And even if it takes you the long way, you're going to get to where God wants you to be. And sometimes he's going to protect you from things that if you would have taken that leap earlier, you might have hurt yourself, or you might have run into a car accident like that night. And that story stuck with me. And it's been 20 years, but it stuck with me because I always have to remember that just because it doesn't go my way doesn't mean that God is not involved and not looking out, not protecting, my investment, or what his investment is in me. He's invested in me, and he's going to make sure I get to where he wants me to be. I just got to learn, and I'm still learning, to trust him, even when I can't see him, even when I can't feel him, even when I don't understand him. Just trust him because he knows what he's doing.
Victor and I, you can't see us, but we're over here nudging each other with our knees. Like, did you hear that? Did you hear that, Mia? So that's really powerful. There was something you said earlier that I wanted to just highlight on, because, man, the title of the show was Addiction. The overcoming addiction, and so it made me think about. And you talked about a really key point of needing to change environments. And Victor, you all brought in the scriptures. I was actually thinking about, man, how significant it was for you to do that, because you know, based on what you said, the fact that you grew up in a home where there was, you know, your mom had to struggle, it's six of you know, and perhaps you took on responsibilities that maybe you wouldn't have taken on if the dynamics were different. We don't know. We know that the first start of your life, there was a lot of abuse there. So why I'm bringing this up is because for those of you looking on who God is calling you to make changes, sometimes we can battle with loyalty to the dysfunction, if that makes sense, like loyalty to the dysfunction. So maybe we got connected to friends, right? Like the prodigal son got connections with dysfunction, and it could be hard to leave that alone until it got disgusting, you know. um and for some of us it may be difficult, you know, if we're battling with addiction, we're battling with needing to break away from unhealthy people, unhealthy parents, perhaps even, or family members or friends. Not that we don't love those people, not that we don't care about them, but for a season sometimes we might need to disconnect from the dysfunction so that we can mature and grow and change, and then be able to interact with those people from a place of strength versus a place of dependence. And I'm not saying that that's what the case was for you, but just sometimes for us it may be difficult because it's like, man, this is where I first felt acceptance. These friends who were good for me, right? This is where I actually felt like I had a family, or with this man or woman that doesn't really love me, but it felt like it. You know what I'm saying? Because it was different from what I was experiencing in this abusive situation or this toxic situation. You know, even of us who, you know, you engage in sports or other activities, and it's like God may be asking you to put it aside for a time. It's like, hey, this is where I felt my worth. This is where I felt that I mattered, and now I have to stop this. This can be difficult, but you were able to do it, and then God had so much more for you. And so that just stood out to me. And it's like what Victor said, it wasn't only your location that transformed, but your thinking. Because you're the same person in your mind going anywhere in the world, and you'll still attract the same pollution. But once your mind was being transformed, you all, but that couldn't happen until you removed yourself from what was a problem for you. So that's really awesome. I just wanted to highlight what you were saying and how it was speaking to me. Man, so then talk to us. Okay, and I'm going on too far. I don't know if you went to some, but I want to hear, like, you get to Oakwood now, right? So you go to Oakwood and you're magna cum laude. Like, can you talk to us about that? Like, what does it look like to walk in that, you know, grace and that power that now you're accepting God's call for you?
Right. You know, so even getting to Oakwood is a long story because I didn't want to go to Oakwood. I didn't want to be a pastor. I didn't want to be none of that, because when I got back to church when I was 25, I was a little mature, and I watched over those 10 years how the church was changing. And when I say changing, I mean, I saw good pastors get treated by church members different than when I grew up, if that makes any sense.
Break it down, because some people don't know what you're saying.
The way people look at pastors is totally different today. And it didn't just start today. This has been going on for a few years where, you know, at one point, and I get it, at one point, the pastor used to be the most educated person in the congregation.
Okay.
So he had the highest degree, or, you know, he went to college the furthest at some point. But today that's taken over, where sometimes now the members have way more education than the pastor. They've been at it, you know, doing business and running businesses and CEOs and doing things way more than the pastor. And so we look at those things and we change the way we think about the pastor. So I watched the church change, and I didn't want no part of that. I really didn't want no part of that.
Do you mean that people are disrespectful to the pastor? Is that what you're saying? That people kind of treat him like a servant versus like a leader?
Exactly. It wasn't, you've probably seen it. It's just the mentality of society in general. I'm not talking about any specific church or any specific people. Just the mindset of society in general is me. What's in this for me? And I saw that begin to change, and I didn't want to have no part of that. I'm going to be honest with you. Me going to Oakwood was another miraculous thing that happened where God said, all right, enough is enough. You've been doing this, you know what? And this is it. And I ended up having an experience at Oakwood. Before I went to Oakwood, I was literally driving through the Oakwood and I was going into the Oakwood market. I wasn't a student. I wasn't even thinking about a student. But at that time, I was driving a new fancy car, and I don't know if you can tell, but Oakwood is a prestigious HBCU where predominantly everybody at that time, didn't have the same melatonin that I have, if that makes sense.
No, I don't know. Like, you're not like me. I'm confused.
I'm driving to Oakwood, and you think about it, they're probably having issues at the church. I mean, the school, and promiscuity and drugs and all of that. And then you see this guy who doesn't fit in, driving a new fancy car, driving through the dorms. And so they pulled me over. The Oakwood College police literally pulled me over.
Oh, wow.
And they spent 2.5 hours. I mean, literally just they took the hubcaps off my car. They took the rugs out of my trunk. They were looking for something they never told me. Wow. But being from Brooklyn, I know what they were looking for. But they spent 2 hours literally just ransacking my car trying to find something.
Right.
And with the search warrant, or wait a minute, be quiet.
I don't think they had search warrants back. But the thing is that I remember sitting in the car and saying, God, why are you letting this happen? A few things that happened in my life, back to back. And I said, God, why are you letting this happen, man? You know what? I've been trying to serve you. I've been trying to do right. I've left the scene alone. I'm doing the right thing. Now I'm married. I got kids. I'm going to school. I'm doing everything you asked. No matter of fact, I wasn't at school yet. I'm doing everything that you asked. Why is this happening? And I remember, just like I'm having a conversation with you guys, that he said, listen, I told you were going to go to school and do this, and you've been running for 25 years. It's time to stop running. Now, remember, this was during camp meeting in South Central. I don't know if you know, that's like, back then it was like the end of June for like 2 weeks. It was the end of June. And he said, listen, I want you to go to school because, you're doing some great things and you're doing all of this, but I could use a sharper tool than I can a dull tool. And I remember that conversation, just like it was like I'm having the conversation with you. Literally, he sat there. I'm in my car in tears, wondering why are these guys doing this to my car. I haven't done anything. All I did was drop my wife and children off. They were at camp meeting, and I was going back home so I could go to work that night. And I'm thinking, why you keep letting this stuff happen, God? And I'm crying, literal tears. And he said, listen, if you would go to school, then you could sharpen your skills and you would be even better at what you do. So I said,
you
okay.
didn't even address the situation, what you were crying out about.
He's just like, look, enough is enough, literally. And then it's funny because I said to myself, well, it's June 20th. School starts August 1st. I haven't even put in an application. I said, okay, God, if this is what you want, fine, not a problem. I'll do whatever you say. And if you can get me in school by August 1st, now knowing that that's impossible. I haven't even sent an application, and it's like school starts in 6 weeks. I haven't even been looked at to be accepted. And that was June 20th, and school starts the first week in August. I said, okay, God, if that's what you want, that's what I'll do. Monday morning, I'm going to fill out an application. So I went, filled out the application, and needless to say, I was in school August 1st. And I was like, wow, okay. And so I got into school and I started going to school. And every single time, I remember, I'm working 11 to 7 at night, 11 at night till 7 in the morning. I start school at 8. I go to school at 3, 4 o'clock. I come home, I have dinner, spend time with the family, go to sleep so I can get up to go to work at 11. That was my life during Oakwood.
Mercy.
Does it sound like I had all this time for studying and preparing for exams and doing all of that stuff? Here's what happened. Every single time I got into a crunch, I said, God, this is your fault. Remember, I didn't want to come here. You made me come here. You told me to come here. So these grades are your responsibility. These tests are your responsibility. I didn't want to come here. I was fine where I was. You could have left me alone. This is good. Leave me alone. I'm good. I'm just going to be happy doing. I just go to church. I'm just, just leave me alone. I'm good. And sure enough, every single time an exam came, he would bring that. Don't get me wrong. I had to go to class. I had to be attentive and take notes. I had to pay attention and ask the questions, and I had to do my part. But God took care of every exam. And if you, as you read in the Bible, I graduated one of the top 5 in my class, magna cum laude. And it wasn't because I was doing extra studying or I was doing extra stuff. It was because I challenged God. I said, look, this is your responsibility, not mine. You said this is what you wanted, so you're now responsible. And that's what I love about God. He doesn't just tell you to go do something. He makes himself responsible for your success.
Come
He
on.
makes himself responsible for you getting to where he wants you to be. If we surrender, I like that word you used earlier. If we would just surrender, you'd be surprised at the things God wants to do for us, through us. The challenge again becomes that we are just human beings are a piece of work.
Got that right.
All of us. It's not just some of us. It's all of us. We are a piece of work. Unless we let God have his way, let him do what he does. And it's not easy. I'm not sitting here trying to tell you that it was just roses and it was all easy. It's still a lot of hard work. I still struggle. I still have challenges. I hate to say it, but I'm still struggling with life. I'm not arrived. I am struggling. There are times where I love God with all my heart, but if some of his children can get on your last nerve.
True.
I pray all the time that Lord help me to be like you, help me to respond like you. I don't always do it, but I ask God to help me to do it his way instead of my way, because my way will always get me in trouble. My way will always get me going the long route and then complaining about it took me a long time to get there when it was actually my fault, not his.
And I mean, I hear you, when you talk about that. I think a lot of us as God's children, we're living in a mistaken identity. We take on the wrong character attributes. Like God said, we were made in his image. He called us the royal priesthood. He said we're fearfully and wonderfully made, but we don't realize that. We don't own that. And so therefore we start taking on other characteristics, character traits of the enemy, and it's so hard. I can only imagine what it's like to be a pastor, to work with people who don't always realize their worth, and they have issues with God, and you're a representative of God, and so it's coming your way, Wow. So we definitely, for those of you watching on, treat your pastors right, man. Love your pastors. Get them some food. Get his wife some, not just some flowers. Get her a pedicure or something. Love on your pastoral family. Love on the kids. Because a lot of people do expect that pastors are pastors and not people. That because you're a minister of the gospel, that you're not a human being.
Right.
All of a sudden you've transformed into another type of form, and that's just not true. It makes me think about a live I did. It's called Why Godly People May Seem Fake. And the underline is on godly, because they are godly people. We are godly people, but we're growing. Like God's people are growing, and we're all growing from a different angle and a different way, and
different places.
So many painful things that have happened to people that they're still trying to, may not even realize, and they're living it out every day.
Yeah. Something I wanted to.
Oh, no, go ahead. I was going to say, while you were talking, I was listening, because what I want to tell your listeners and my listeners and anybody who will listen even in the future,
right?
If you're going to make a difference, it has to be about others and not yourself. Mm-hmm. If you're going to start a business, maybe serving, giving some of it away at the beginning, maybe doing for others in the beginning will get you where you need to go. It's about, like you said, changing the mindset of I'm trying to become a gazillionaire or a billionaire. If that's the goal, then you're going to get frustrated. But if your goal is serving and you're using these gifts that God has given you to serve others, to help others, that will always take care of itself. In other words, being an entrepreneur, being whatever it is, you want to open a business. When you think about others all the time and you serve others all the time, then it will make that journey a whole lot easier, if that makes any sense. Because our world is hurting because we stopped serving each other. We stopped taking care of each other. We stopped looking out for each other. I mentioned that I went to this evangelistic meeting when I was 13 and it blew my mind. And it's one of the things that I love doing. And one of the things that I remember is that somebody made sure that they would pick us up. Remember, my mom had 6 kids. So it wasn't like you just picking up one person. You were picking up 6, 7 people and bringing them every night. That's an inconvenience. You're picking them up in your car and you're bringing them and taking us home and feeding us and all of those kinds of things. But they were serving. And because of that service, we felt something at the meetings that we didn't feel anywhere else. I felt something. I got something that I didn't get. Why? Because somebody was serving. Somebody was thinking about not the inconvenience it was giving them, not the gas they were spending, not the money they were spending. They were thinking about somebody else. I want somebody else to be better. I want somebody else to get this hope. I want somebody else. And when you put that first, even in your business, even whatever it is you're doing, when you do that first, the outcomes are totally different. Everything changes. And you'll begin to see God work. You'll see things happen when you think about others and trying to serve at all times. And so I want to thank you for bringing that up. That is a powerful point. And we have to change our minds.
Yes.
That's so good. That is so good. Well, Pastor, we have really appreciated you coming on, sharing your story with us, being transparent. For people who think like, oh, this Christianity is not for me, realizing that you don't have to be perfect to come to God. God is coming to you. He's coming to you. He wants you.
It's funny because I had a lady just come to me yesterday at church. And she said, Pastor, that we had a baptism a couple of weeks ago. And she said, Pastor, I was supposed to be in that baptism. I said, yeah, I remember. She said, I made some dumb mistakes and I went back to, and she said, and I didn't want to get baptized and let God down and not be serious. And I said, listen, if you're waiting to get it all together, if you're waiting for everything to be perfect, if you're waiting for you to have it all together to come to God, then at that point you really don't need God if you got it all together.
Yeah.
The reason why we come to God is because we don't have it together.
Yeah.
We come to him just the way we are, and God fixes us. He grows us. He matures us. He fixes us. He gets us the way he wants us to be. And so many people have the idea that, I'll get it together first, and that's when I'm going to go. I'm going to do this. Just take the leap. Take the jump. See what happens. Just do it. And just see, even in business, as being an entrepreneur, just, you know what? I don't have this. I don't have that. Start where you are with what you do have and just start serving and watch what happens. Just start serving. Just start doing things for people. Just start loving on people, doing things just to help people. And you'll be surprised at what God will do if we would just take the leap. God is not expecting you to have it all figured out. God is expecting you and me to trust that he's already got it figured out. And all we've got to do is trust him. Not that I got it all together. He's got it all together. And all I got to do is just trust that he knows what he's doing. And if he doesn't, he says, could get your money back. After a while, if you trust in me and I don't come through, get your money back.
I hear you on that, man. That's awesome. That's great. Get that money back guarantee, that experience back guarantee. Well, awesome. Yes. Well, we have come to the end of our show. You have been watching the Business Heroes podcast with Victor and Mia and Pastor Guerrero. And we are so thankful that you took time out of your day to come. Before we close out, we do want to just say thank you again for coming. And we have just a little, yes, we had yes, thank you.
Yes. So all Pastor G's contact info is in the description, whether on Facebook or YouTube. So check it out there. But he's on Facebook, he's on Instagram, he's on YouTube, he's got a website, robertoguerrero.org. And also there's a link to his interview with Mia and to his channel overall, which is Roberto Guerrero. And he's got just a number of different segments that he does. I think one's about Christ and Revelation. Another one is Hope for the Journey, which Mia was on. And there's several other sets of videos that he does. So please, please, please check it out. You will be blessed for sure.
Amen.
And so thank you for providing that information for us, Pastor, and just for being here once again. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
I'm humbled and honored.
Yes, thank you. So we just hang out a little bit after the show, but we are going to wrap things up here. And so Mia, he said, well, we've got something to share with people that's happening today, right?
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. And so I hope that you'll be able to come and join us. We have a little commercial Victor's going to play for you so that you can see what we're up to as Pain Unwasted, our organization, and see if you can be a part of our training today. Know that 1 in 5 people are actually battling with their mental health. According to the World Health Organization, 4.5 million adolescents are actually diagnosed with anxiety. 80% of African Americans and Latinos are not only undiagnosed, they're untreated. How many people live in your house? How many people are in your classroom or are on your job? Do you know how to help someone that may be struggling with their mental health? Would you know what to do if someone came to you and said, you know what, I just don't want to be here? Listen, my name is Mia Pyle, and I am a survivor of my own mental health crisis. It got so bad for me that I was going to take my life, and I wound up in a behavioral health hospital. But now I am a mental health coach, speaker, and advocate, and I want you to be a part of the training that we have coming up. Not knowing what to do, not knowing how to properly assist someone could not only cost your health, but also your income, and more importantly, their lives or yours. In this training, you can gain the tools to help someone in a crisis and be confident that you'll know what to do. Some people think that it will take a long time to have an emotional or mental turnaround, but that's just not true. It can happen sooner than you think. Please be a part of this training. Learn how to help not only yourself to gain the tools and the motivation that you need to show up for your life, but you can also help someone that may be in trouble right around you. Not only that, but you're going to get access to resources and tools and strategies that actually work, that can help you and to help you quickly. I am so glad that you're going to take this course with us on October the 9th from 2 to 6 p.m. Central Time. It is going to be amazing. I'll see you there. All right. Yay. October 9th. That's today.
It is today.
That is today. And so good. We hope that you'll be able to join us for that class. Listen, I don't know who's going to know this, because, hey, but as of today, this recording and you're watching this, we're giving away 2 free seats. 2 free seats. So you have to contact us, okay? Contact us before the class, which the class is from 2 to 6 p.m. Central Time today, October the 9th, which is today. All right? So we have 2 free seats to give away. You contact us. You let us know. We'll get you in there. The class is going for $300 a seat, okay? So you getting on there, your seat is free today. 2 people. We have it for 2 people. Once those 2 people collect their seats, then, it's back to the regular amount. But we are so excited.
You either need to comment now or hit us up on Facebook.
Yes,
okay?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, Victor Pyle, Mia Pyle, or the Pain Unwasted site. So please.
Yeah, grab your seat. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be great. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show with us. And we will see you again next week by God's grace when we interview another amazing business hero. And so you have been watching us, and we had Pastor G on. He's amazing. Don't forget to go like and subscribe his channel as well. Hope for the journey. Okay. And do the same here. All right.
All right, y'all.
Blessings.
God
We
bless.
see you.